All right, today I'm going to review Architects of Intelligence: The Truth About AI from the People Building It by Martin Ford. So this book, it's a very lengthy set of interviews that Martin Ford conducted with like the leading researchers and programmers and like founder CEO types of AI and AI companies, and the book kind of spans the field of everybody who's really trying to build AI right now. The book's really interesting. I really enjoyed it. The interviews are set up so that the first part of the interview, it's a lot of questions about the person and their background, what they're doing currently with AI, what they want to do with AI, and that kind of meanders into some different areas. But then the second part of the interview, Martin Ford asks these people like a certain set of questions, or he covers a few topic areas. The first one is, what will be the path to AI that is successful, and about when do you think the first true artificial general intelligence will be created? And this is a really interesting question because a lot of these people are like the leading candidates in different fields for their method of trying to attain an AI. So DeepMind, they're using this very reinforcement learning approach where they're trying to like evolve an AI from like knowing nothing to being extremely intelligent, and they think that that's the pathway forward. Other people are trying to like seed the AI with a lot of structure and information in order to like kind of jumpstart the AI system. Other people are trying like evolutionary approaches, like pitting different things against each other, then based on their success, tweaking them, and like evolution-based algorithms. And all these people kind of give their opinion on what they think will be the successful path and why their method is the right method. That's a really interesting question. That was one of the most interesting questions for me. The follow-up questions were less interesting, but very relevant for a lot of people, I think. The second topic covered is what will the impact of AI and robotics be on the economy? And some people think it'll be fine, but most people think it'll be a pretty big disruption if it's successful in the near term. And then the author asked pretty much everyone whether or not they support a universal basic income and why not if they don't like it and why they support it if they do. And then the last question they ask about is, do they think that AI poses a big risk for society? Like the way that Elon Musk and Nick Bostrom talk about AI safety and AI dangers. And I was pretty surprised a lot of these people dismiss it entirely, or not entirely, but they play it down a lot. And like I've heard in a lot of these books, like Nick Bostrom's book, well, not so much in Nick Bostrom's book, but a lot in like Stuart Russell's book, when they're talking about AI safety, they kind of always characterize themselves as like the small lone person speaking out against the general mass of people who don't think it's a big issue. And in this book, you hear from all those people that don't think it's a big issue and why they don't think it's a big issue. And for some people, they think it's so far out that we just don't have any way of really predicting how good we'll be at controlling stuff. And other people think that you'll build the safety systems into the AI, and so you're never really going to have to deal with a situation where you're building an AI that's extremely capable, but you don't have equally capable methods of controlling it or understanding what's happening. So it's interesting to hear all those different perspectives, because I don't think that part of the topic or that side of AI safety gets covered as much. Uh, Even though most people hold that position, the people who think AI is very dangerous write a lot of books and have a lot of media coverage, and that's kind of the that point of view gets a lot more headlines. So the people who are like, "Oh no, it's not a big deal," that doesn't really generate a lot of media coverage. So it was good to like hear all their perspectives and all their reasoning going into why they don't think AI is super dangerous. So overall, I really enjoyed this book. It's probably my favorite book on AI that I read this year. So I'm definitely going to recommend it. But there are some cons to this book. One, and the primary con is that the book is very repetitive. You can't really avoid it in this type of book, but because every interview is done in this structured manner, you hear the same questions over and over, and so it kind of feels like you're reading a lot and not really gaining that much all the time. It's like the same type of interview over and over and over, which, I mean, that's exactly what the book says it is, so I can't really hold it against the book. But the book is pretty long. That's the second con. It's like 525 pages. And in this book, they're really quite big pages. I mean, this is not like a small book. There's a lot of words and sentences to get through in this book. Once you adjust for like the size of the page and everything, it takes a while to get through this book. The audiobook was like 20 hours, and the average nonfiction audiobook I read is probably like 13, maybe 14. So it's quite a bit longer than most books, and that repetitiveness really comes through in that length. And so you kind of feel like when you read this book that all of the relevant information you gained could have been summarized in a much shorter book. Like, instead of just printing all these interviews, they could have really summarized it and just gone through each topic once and really illustrated all the different perspectives. I liked the interviews a lot. I liked hearing people in their own voice like give their opinions. It gives it a very different feel, more like a podcast on steroids, rather than like a normal nonfiction book. But if it was a normal nonfiction book, the information could have been put in a much smaller package that was easier to read. So there is that con to this book. I was more than okay with it. I listened to the audiobook, and because the interviews they are a lot like podcasts. It's not super conversational because they're edited down a lot. But I mean, it is like one person talking and then the other person responding. And so it's pretty easy to follow along. So even if you're a person that doesn't normally listen to a lot of audiobooks, because you can't retain the information, that's what I hear from a lot of people that I recommend audiobooks to, is they say they just can't retain the information. It just like passes through. They can't keep their attention on it like they can with a physical book. But I think because this is a conversation, it's much easier to follow along. So I would probably recommend reading it that way. It makes getting through the length a lot easier. But I did really enjoy this book the whole way through. Even when it was repetitive, everyone has a different opinion and they're interesting. They come from different backgrounds. Some people are very research oriented. Other people run businesses. Other people are academics. Other people in private industry. There's a lot of different people and a lot of perspectives. And it really fleshed out kind of my understanding of where everyone in the field is at on the topic, which is exactly what I expected to get from this book. So I'm more than satisfied with the book and what I read. It was awesome. So if it sounds interesting to you, definitely pick it up and give it a read. I don't think you'll be disappointed at all. And it'll flesh out a lot of what's going on in the industry that you don't hear about. So I hope you guys like this review. I've got more reviews coming soon. So like, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.